Hello, everyone. I think I'm broadcasting successfully on Facebook Live. Looks like I might be frozen on Facebook. If anybody is here live with me, if you can let me know that you see and hear me, that would be great. Says I'm live, but I am frozen from what I can see on Facebook. Wonder if I can refresh this. Looks like 2 people are here. Hopefully you can see me and hear me. Yes. Excellent. Thank you, Kathleen. To me, I look frozen. That's no fun to have to sit here and watch me say that I look frozen. But anyway, thanks for verifying that you can see and hear me. I don't want to share all of this without you being able to see and hear. So welcome to our Tuesday talk for today, this Tuesday in May. Today is the 17th. We just had a full moon, and not just a full moon, but a full moon eclipse. And you know, I work with a lot of women, and I am also a woman. And I personally was experiencing a lot around this full moon and the eclipse, and hearing from a lot of the women that I work with kind of similar things along those lines. And I was like, I should do a live that looks at kind of the wisdom in the lunar cycle. I'm not going to get specifically into the lunar eclipse per se, but I'll touch back into that. Hopefully I'll remember to do that at the end. So welcome. And if you're here live, I invite you to chime in with your words, your wisdom. I'm going to be doing some screen shares of some graphics that we can look at together. And I just want to say that I don't know everything, right? So I welcome our communal wisdom being shared here. And I think I hope there are some things that each of you watching will take away from the session today that will help in your own understanding of yourself and your connection with nature, specifically the moon and the lunar cycle, and some things that you can do to support yourself. So I look forward to hearing what those things are after this session is over. So to start with, the moon has long been tied to femininity, to the element of water and nurturing. It's connected with the tides, with the Mother Ocean, and the cool kind of loving energy that gets shown down to us through the moon's light is very feminine, which is in contrast to the more harsh, bright light of the sun, which is more masculine. Women's cycles have long been tied to the lunar cycle in terms of menstruation. And hormonal cycles still past menopause are connected to the moon. Now, the more that we get disconnected from the moon, meaning we're not aware of the moon cycle, we're not spending time in moonlight, maybe we're not even necessarily connected to the day and night schedule. We might be sleeping during the day and awake during the night, which isn't necessarily helpful for our hormonal balance. I recognize that some of us have periods of time in our lives where we need to work a night shift or things to make our lives happen. And it's best if we can be asleep during nighttime. However, it is powerful to connect with the moon when we're able to. So spending some time in the moonlight. And many of you have been encouraged by me to create lunar infusions. So to put herbs in a jar of water and to leave those out under the moonlight. So put them in a place outside where it will get direct moonlight. And then in the morning, you have this lunar infusion, which is very cooling for the body and the mind and the spirit. So if you struggle with pitta imbalance, this can be very, very helpful to do a lunar infusion. If you use crystals in your life, also putting them out during the full moon, it's empowering to those the energies of the crystals to put them out under a full moon. So we know these energies are present. And there's a lot more that I want to go into today, in addition to just what do we do during the full moon. And eclipses, just a quick tidbit about the eclipses change the energy of the moon. So during eclipses isn't a good time to put out lunar infusions or crystals. It kind of muddies the energy. The energy that comes from the moon is referred to as soma, or like pure nourishing energy. And it's kind of like the energy of the mother energy. It's soma. It's sweet and balanced and totally good. Right? There's no complexity to it. So that moonlight can really be a nourishing thing that we can bring in. So in terms of our cycles as women, I want to show you some graphics. So the first one, we're just going to look at the 4 phases of the moon. And so if we look at the full moon, waning moon, meaning it's moving from full to new moon, and then the waxing moon, meaning that it's building from the new moon, which is dark, to the full moon. And what's cool about the moon is that, like, the moon is the moon, but what it's doing is it's reflecting light. The moon doesn't innately have its own light, it's reflecting light. And this is such a cool concept to tune into, of that reflecting the light in terms of the energies that we can align with through the flow of the lunar cycle. So we just had this full moon, and here, if you are still menstruating, this would be, if you're aligned with a lunar cycle, this would be when your ovulation happens, is during the full moon. So it's like you're juicy, you're fertile. And it's also a time when the energies are more aligned for you to be seen. It's like there's a spotlight for all of us. It's not just some of us, all of us. So it's more comfortable doing things like being social, or, maybe giving a speech or a presentation, something that puts you in the light, kind of in the spotlight. If you're thinking about playing an open mic night or something, great to do during a full moon, or creating some sort of event. It's great to do during a full moon. It's a time when all of our energy is more aligned towards outward connection. So external energy more. So this is like the summer, it's a time of fulfillment. Like the noon, it's the brightest time of the day. You may feel an increased sense of fertility and sexuality, moments of high energy and inspiration. So this is a time of the month to like go for it. Like all your energy is present. It may feel like things flow much more easily. You can accomplish more in a day. And that energy from the moon can be really help you feel really inspired. This can also be a time when people have trouble sleeping because the moon is full, right? And so that can really, um, really mess with our sleep. And so I really encourage you all to do what I do, which is to wear an eye mask when you sleep. And I've taken to wearing one and earplugs every a while ago. I used to just wear an eye mask during the full moon, and I just find that I sleep so much better. I also have more of a Vata constitution, and sleep in my past has tended to be very complicated and hard. I now sleep really well, and I do use an eye mask every night, and especially during the full moon. So when we can create that darkness for ourselves instead of the light keeping us up during the full moon, that can be really helpful. Oh, Sarah, you're so welcome. I'm glad to be able to um, share with you all. And Debbie, glad to see you here too. Excellent. So when we're in the full moon, we may feel like all this energy, but we also need to know how to like put the face mask on and get a little quiet and spend some time in our created darkness so that we can actually get the rest that we need during the time. And so the full moon usually is one day, one night, but even around that time, you know, the few days before, the few days after, it's still very bright and that energy is abundant. This is the time when making ghee is recommended in terms of like making your month's supply of ghee is over these few days around the full moon. And again, that's so you infuse the ghee with this beautiful, glowing, nourishing, radiant energy of the full moon, the soma. So after the full moon, we then have the waning moon. And again, this happens over a period of days. And this we can look at more like the autumn season. So this is the autumn, a feeling of energy maturing, like the late afternoon, making the transition from activity to evening rest. You may feel more introverted and start seeding ideas for the next phase. So this is the harvest time. And so aligning, you know, what you're doing to the extent that, I mean, our world is set up where it's very challenging, even owning your own business like I do. It's very challenging to align what we're doing on any given days or moon cycles, as the case may be, to totally align with these things. And it can be incredibly helpful when we can, again, back to the do what you can where you are with what you have. So tuning into that kind of like harvest energy during the waning moon time, which is what we're going to be moving into after the full moon that we just had. And then we move into the dark moon. So this is the new moon. And this is the time if you are menstruating that you would menstruate. So back to the waning moon, this is when we would come kind of into the, if we do not have a viable pregnancy, then we'll come into our premenstrual time. And this can also be, some of us get kind of moody during this time. And this can be, when we look at that harvest energy, it can be like really discerning of like what we want to keep and what we want to let go of kind of energy. Okay, so then back to the dark moon. So this is the new moon, and this is traditionally when, if we're connected to the moon, we would bleed. And so in traditional cultures back in the day, you've probably heard of red tents. There's still red tent gatherings. The women would go and get to take a few days off of work and preparing food and just get to rest during their menstruation time. And now we pretend like nobody menstruates and we just, you know, either use hormones so we don't menstruate, which is challenging for the system, or we continue to push ourselves even as we're bleeding, when really it's a great time to rest. So this is like the winter. The seeds of possibility lie fallow and incubating. Like the night, it is time to regenerate. You may feel quiet, reflective, thoughtful, insightful, sensitive, and sexual. And I would say this time, compared to like the full moon sexuality, is more like deep intimacy, which may look different or feel different to you in terms of sexual expression during the new moon versus the full moon. So just things to tune into and see. And so this is a really great time for planting seeds of intention, allowing yourself to rest a little bit more. One of my teachers, I remember several years ago, was just kept telling me, you need to just plan to have more time off during the new moon. Like, it's just really, really important. And this is where a lot of us end up getting depleted, is that we push ourselves. We're still working, we're still exercising hard, we're still socializing through the new moon. And that can be very, very taxing and depleting, especially over time, right? This happens. There's 13 moon cycles in a calendar year, so 13 times a year. And if we're constantly depleting ourselves during the new moon, and this goes for you whether you're menstruating or not. If you're, postmenopausal and you're no longer bleeding, it's still a good time to really tune into like the inner intuition, to plant the seeds of intention for the coming lunar cycle, to be a little more quiet, a little more internal. And I've seen this play out without people even knowing it in groups. Like when there's been gatherings on a new moon, it can be that there's more vulnerability and kind of like a deeper intimacy, but also less desire to like be around a big crowd of people or to be kind of like bright and shiny. It's more like being more internal and quiet, listening to that deep inner knowing. So then the moon starts to gain a little bit of light towards being full again. And then this is the waxing moon. So it's like spring, that energy, and ideas develop and energy grows. Like the morning, everything becomes brighter. You may feel extroverted, more like socializing, busier, starting to set up new projects. So it's that growth energy. And so over the time, as we're moving towards the full moon, this can be a time of, a lot of energy, maybe new growth, new projects, pushing yourself a little bit more. There's more stamina. And this is also that time when the immune system is the strongest, is after the new moon nourishment or bleed. So bleeding allows toxins to leave the body. And so that allows a clarity to happen. So let me know if anybody has any questions as I'm going through things here. And I'm trying to get back to where are we here? Oh goodness. I have lost my Zoom screen. Okay. So I want to share this is really strange. Okay, there we go. Okay, yay, here we're back. I'm usually pretty good with this technology, so this is kind of funny. Also, Mercury is in retrograde right now, which means technology is a little more confusing. So let me know if you have any questions from what I just shared about those 4 stages. So Grace says, yeah, so if you're on menopause, follow the moon cycle. Yes, all of us can follow the moon cycle. And even those of us that are still menstruating, we can tune into what the moon is doing. I mean, I have a friend who swears that she always, no matter what, bleeds on the full moon. You know, we can be on very different schedules, but we can also tune into that moon energy. Like, we still want to take time to rest when we're bleeding, but there may be a balance there to recognize like what's the moon energy doing, what's your body doing, and have a conversation there. But yes, if you are postmenopausal, it kind of simplifies things a lot, and you can tune into the moon energy with a different level of focus. So I'm going to share another thing here. And so this is connecting the female energy cycle. So this is looking at that same rhythm, but from a different, just some different wording, basically. So, so here we have, if we look at the first phase, we look at the energy cycle in terms of the menstrual cycle. The first phase is bleeding. So this is when our cycle starts. So when we're charting our cycle, we look at from the first day of bleed until the first day of the next bleed is one cycle. So if we look at the first phase here, so this would be the new moon phase. The descriptions here are, it's the sage time, so that more like inner knowing. It's the menstrual phase, wise woman energy, bleeding, reflective, passive, and withdrawn. I know for myself, when I'm bleeding, I want to close my eyes more. I just want to have my eyes closed. It's like, it takes more energy for me to be looking out at the world. There's a lot more tuning into the subconscious, the intuition, inward focus for creativity. I'm going to zoom in here. It's the best time for inner processing, creative reviewing, reaching the core of things, getting to the truth of things, reframing, letting go, new ideas, intuitive creativity, and rest and renewal. So that's that new moon time, like getting still, getting quiet, listening to that inner knowing, planting the seeds. And then we move into the follicular phase. So this is the growing of the follicle if you're still cycling, and it's seen as the maiden phase. And so the energy here is kind of the virgin energy. This is what we saw as springtime before. It's after your bleed, so you're kind of cleared out if you are still bleeding. It's dynamic, active, increasing conscious awareness. It's the best time for mental creativity, learning, clarity, concentration, researching, structural thinking, independence, and physical stamina. So if you are thinking about aligning certain activities and you're like, I want to do this when I feel really strong, really able to focus, like you might think about this this time that's waxing. The moon is waxing. It's the springtime energy. And then we move into the ovulatory phase, which is the mother energy. And this is, totally palpable, even if you're not menstruating. So the mother energy is the ovulatory phase. It's expressive, passive, and outgoing, conscious reasoning, outward focus for creativity. It's the best time for communication, empathy, productivity, teamwork, supporting others, emotional creativity, and creating relationships and creating other people, if that's what you're wanting to do during this time, is when you can get pregnant if you are successfully cycling. And so this is kind of the bright, shiny, full moon time. And then we move into the waning time. And that is the enchantress. Some people call this the crone energy, but I think in general, the word enchantress is much more appealing than crone, although I think crone speaks to a lot of wisdom. So this is that phase is the luteal phase, the time of the wild woman. It's where we can get a little feisty, a little like we need to speak our truth, a little less cushion with patience. We can be in this time, the premenstrual phase. It's also creative, active, increasing subconscious awareness. This is that fall time. It's the best time for inspired creativity, out of the box thinking, problem identification, problem solving, and assertiveness. So again, this is another way to conceive of kind of the roles that all of us as women have, these energies of the sage, the maiden, the mother, and the enchantress in us, and how we flow in and out of those energies can be really exciting and powerful and empowering if we can look at how we can align with them over and over and over again, like each month, like how does this align? And I'm sure that all of you have had the experience of some days being like, oh my gosh, it's like everything just flowed and I got so much done and it just felt easeful. And there's like you're kind of like, I don't really know why that happened. And then other days where it just feels like slogging. Like I sometimes describe my menstrual days as like trying to swim through molasses. Like that's kind of how it feels. I feel like my brain functions slower. My ability to complete tasks isn't as efficient or focused. I definitely want more rest. I definitely don't want to be around as many people. And so just recognizing it's like, I come back to that trusting that everything in its own perfect timing, right? And since we live in a culture that says everything needs to happen just the same all the time, we're creating inner conflict because the energy of the natural world isn't the same all the time. Just like there's moon cycles, there's also seasons, and we have seasons of our lives too. So, how you're going to be experiencing things as a 30-year-old menstruating woman versus, a 60-year-old postmenopausal woman is going to be very different. And I invite us to embrace that. Because as we know from Ayurveda, when we can be in the flow, in the alignment with the natural world, then we're just flowing with the current. We're creating so much ease. And that ease creates radiance. It creates potentiality. It creates happiness. Even in a world where there's so many things that are challenging, we don't need to be creating so much of our own imbalance, so much of our own challenge. So I hope that this was interesting and helpful to you all today. There's other pieces of this. This is kind of just an intro. And I would love to hear what your takeaways are. I would love to hear what your insights are from your experience. And as you journey through this next month, this is an amazing time. If you're watching this around the time that I'm filming, that we're moving from a full moon into a waning period, and just start noticing more and more and more how your energy shifts, what you're feeling interested in or not interested in, how your moods are. And in my program, The Deeper Dive, I have everybody chart through a cycle or more if they choose to, their moods and their cravings. It's like each day of the cycle, like what's showing up for you. And there's patterns that we notice over time, but most of us live our lives without ever bothering to record this information. And so we don't know that the patterns are there. People around us might know, like, oh, you get a little grumpy before you bleed, or, new moon time, mama doesn't want to go out, or whatever. People might notice things about you that you don't even see as a pattern. So start listening, start noticing, and honoring yourself. Honor your energy, your focus, and connect with the moon. So thanks for joining me, those of you that were here live, and those of you watching the replay, #replay. Let me know you're here and send in your questions. Let's keep exploring how to live in alignment to be happier and healthier all the time. All right, sending you all lots of love. Take care.